If you've been waking up feeling bloated, uncomfortable, and wondering why your stomach looks like you're carrying extra weight that simply won't go away no matter what you do, what I'm about to share with you might completely change how you feel every single morning. I've seen patients who've struggled with this for years, trying every diet and supplement imaginable, only to discover that the solution was hiding in plain sight, right in their kitchen, and the timing of when they consumed it made all the difference in the world. My name is Dr. Helen Brooks, and I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist with over 18 years of clinical experience. Throughout my career, I've treated thousands of patients suffering from chronic bloating, digestive discomfort, and gut inflammation. What I'm going to share with you today comes from real clinical observations, real patient transformations, and the fascinating science of how our digestive system actually works while we sleep. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I strongly recommend hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you never miss another health tip designed specifically for you. If you find this video helpful, please leave your questions and video suggestions in the comments below. I read every single one, and your input helps me create content that truly serves your health needs and helps more people just like you. Now let me tell you about something that happened just a few months ago in my practice. I had a patient, let's call her Margaret, a 67-year-old retired teacher who came to see me absolutely frustrated. She told me, "Dr. Brooks, I wake up every single morning feeling like my stomach is going to explode. I look 6 months pregnant, and by the afternoon, I can barely button my pants. I've tried eliminating gluten, dairy, going low carb, high carb, everything you can imagine, and nothing works." The desperation in her voice was palpable. She'd been dealing with this for over 5 years, and it was affecting not just her physical comfort, but her social life, her confidence, and her overall quality of life. She'd stopped accepting dinner invitations because she was embarrassed about how she looked and felt after eating. Her husband was worried, her adult children kept suggesting different diets and cleanses, and she felt like she was failing at something that should be simple, just digesting food normally. What Margaret didn't know, and what most people don't realize, is that our gut has its own circadian rhythm, just like our sleep-wake cycle. Your digestive system doesn't work the same way at midnight as it does at noon. The bacteria in your gut, all 100 trillion of them, have their own schedules, their own feeding times, and their own cleanup routines. When we ignore these natural rhythms, when we eat the wrong things at the wrong times, we create an environment where bloating, gas, and inflammation become the norm rather than the exception. The solution I'm about to share isn't some exotic superfood or expensive supplement. It's something most of you probably already have in your home, but you've never thought to use it this specific way, at this specific time. And the timing, as you'll see, is absolutely crucial. Let's start with understanding what's actually happening in your gut when you feel that uncomfortable bloating, that distended stomach that makes you look and feel so different from how you want to feel. Inside your digestive tract, you have what we call your gut microbiome. This is an entire ecosystem of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms that play a crucial role in breaking down food, producing vitamins, regulating your immune system, and yes, controlling inflammation and gas production. When this ecosystem is balanced, you feel great. Your stomach is flat, comfortable, and you have regular, healthy bowel movements. But when it's out of balance, a condition we call dysbiosis, certain bacteria start to overgrow. These bacteria are often the types that produce excessive amounts of gas as they ferment the food you eat. They create hydrogen, methane, and other gases that get trapped in your intestines, causing that balloon-like feeling, that visible distension that's so uncomfortable. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and this is what most people miss. Your gut bacteria are most active in their repair and rebalancing work during the night while you sleep. Between the hours of 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning, your gut goes through what we call its housekeeping phase. This is when beneficial bacteria multiply, when your intestinal lining repairs itself, and when inflammation naturally decreases, but only if you give your body the right tools to do this work. I had another patient, Robert, a 72-year-old former engineer who'd always been meticulous about his health. He tracked everything he ate, exercised regularly, took his vitamins, did all the right things. But he still woke up every morning with severe bloating and discomfort. He'd seen 3 different doctors before coming to me, and each one had run tests. Everything came back normal. His colonoscopy was clear, his blood work was perfect, and yet he suffered every single day. When I sat down with Robert and went through not just what he was eating, but when he was eating it, I discovered something crucial. He had a habit a seemingly innocent habit of having a large snack right before bed, usually something he considered healthy, like whole grain crackers with cheese, or a protein bar, or sometimes leftover dinner. He thought he was doing the right thing, keeping his metabolism going, preventing his blood sugar from dropping overnight. But what he was actually doing was sabotaging his gut's natural nighttime repair process. You see, when you eat, especially when you eat complex foods that require significant digestion, you're essentially asking your gut to work. And when your gut is working on breaking down food, it's not focusing on its repair and rebalancing activities. It's like asking a construction crew to both demolish a building and build a new one at the same time. They can't do both jobs effectively simultaneously. But there's one specific thing you can consume before bed that actually supports this nighttime gut repair process instead of interfering with it. And I'm not talking about expensive probiotics or fermented drinks that many people find difficult to tolerate. I'm talking about something simple, something that's been used for digestive health for thousands of years, but that modern science is only now beginning to fully understand. If you're still watching and finding this information valuable, go ahead and comment below to let me know you're following along. It helps me understand what content resonates with you so I can create more videos that truly serve your needs. The answer is bone broth, but not just any bone broth consumed any old way. I'm talking about a specific type of preparation, consumed at a specific time in a specific amount. And before you think, oh, I've tried bone broth, it didn't help, let me explain why the details matter so much and why most people aren't getting the benefits they could be getting. True bone broth, the kind that actually helps your gut, is made by simmering animal bones, along with a small amount of acid like vinegar or lemon juice, for an extended period, usually 12 to 24 hours. This long, slow cooking process extracts compounds from the bones that are absolutely magical for your digestive system. We're talking about collagen, gelatin, amino acids like glutamine and glycine, and minerals like calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus. Let me explain what each of these does for your gut, because understanding the science helps you appreciate why this works when so many other things haven't. Collagen and gelatin are proteins that, when you consume them, get broken down into amino acids that your body uses to rebuild the lining of your intestinal tract. Your gut lining is only one cell layer thick, and it's constantly being damaged by the food you eat, stress, medications, and inflammation. Every single day, this delicate barrier needs repair. When it's not properly maintained, you develop what's called intestinal permeability, where the tight junctions between cells become loose. This allows partially digested food particles, toxins, and bacteria to leak from your intestine into your bloodstream, triggering inflammation throughout your entire body and, yes, causing bloating and digestive discomfort. Glutamine, one of the key amino acids in bone broth, is the preferred fuel source for the cells that line your intestines. These cells, called enterocytes, literally eat glutamine for energy. When they have plenty of glutamine, they can maintain those tight junctions, repair damage quickly, and keep your gut barrier strong and healthy. Studies on patients with inflammatory bowel conditions have shown that glutamine supplementation can significantly improve gut barrier function, and bone broth is one of the richest natural sources of this crucial amino acid. Glycine, another amino acid abundant in bone broth, has a calming effect on your nervous system and helps reduce inflammation throughout your body. It also stimulates the production of stomach acid, which might sound counterintuitive when we're talking about gut comfort, but adequate stomach acid is actually essential for proper digestion and preventing bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. I had a patient named Dorothy, a 69-year-old retired nurse who understood health from a professional perspective but couldn't figure out her own digestive issues. She came to me with what she called a food baby every single morning. She'd wake up, and before she'd eaten a single thing, her stomach would already be distended, uncomfortable, and she'd feel sluggish and foggy-headed. She'd tried elimination diets, expensive probiotics, digestive enzymes, everything she could think of from her nursing background. When I suggested the bone broth protocol I'm about to share with you, she was skeptical. She said, "Dr. Brooks, I've been in healthcare for 40 years. I've never heard of bone broth being prescribed for bloating." But she was desperate enough to try anything, so she agreed to follow my recommendations for 2 weeks. The protocol was simple. Every evening, 2 hours before bed, Dorothy would have 1 cup, just 8 ounces, of properly prepared bone broth. Not the boxed stuff from the grocery store, which often contains very little actual collagen and is loaded with sodium and preservatives, but real homemade bone broth that had been simmered for at least 12 hours. She could season it however she liked with herbs, a bit of sea salt, even a squeeze of lemon. But the key was consuming it at that specific time window, 2 hours before sleep. Why 2 hours? Because this gives your body enough time to begin absorbing and utilizing those healing compounds before you enter deep sleep. But it's not so long before bed that you've digested everything and the benefits have worn off. It's not so close to bedtime that you're going to bed with a full stomach. Those 2 hours are the sweet spot. Within just 3 days, Dorothy noticed a difference. She texted me, and I still have her message, Dr. Brooks. I woke up today and my stomach was almost flat. I can't remember the last time that happened. By the end of 2 weeks, her morning bloating had decreased by what she estimated was 70 to 80%. She had more energy, her clothes fit better, and she felt like she'd finally found something that actually worked. She told me later that it had transformed not just her physical comfort but her entire outlook. She felt hopeful again. She felt like her body wasn't betraying her, and she started accepting social invitations and planning activities she'd been avoiding for years. But if you think that's impressive, wait until you hear about what happened with another patient of mine, a gentleman named Thomas, who was 74 years old and had been dealing with not just bloating but severe digestive discomfort and irregular bowel movements for over a decade. Thomas had seen multiple gastroenterologists before me. He'd had every test imaginable, including multiple colonoscopies, endoscopies, and imaging studies. Everything came back normal, which in some ways made his situation more frustrating because he had no clear diagnosis, no clear treatment path. He was told repeatedly that it was just irritable bowel syndrome, just something he'd have to learn to live with. He was given various medications, some of which helped temporarily but came with side effects he couldn't tolerate, and others that didn't help at all. When Thomas came to see me, he was at his wit's end. He told me his quality of life had deteriorated to the point where he rarely left his house because he never knew when he'd have a flare-up of bloating and discomfort. He'd given up foods he loved, activities he enjoyed, and he felt like he was just managing symptoms rather than actually healing. I started Thomas on the bone broth protocol, but I also added something else that made a significant difference. Along with the bone broth 2 hours before bed, I had him eliminate all food intake 3 hours before consuming the broth. This meant his last meal was 5 hours before bed. Then he had a 3-hour fasting window. Then the bone broth 2 hours before sleep. This might seem complicated, but here's why it works so powerfully. That 3-hour fasting window allows your digestive system to complete processing your last meal. It allows your migrating motor complex, a wave of electrical activity that sweeps through your intestines and clears out remaining food particles and bacteria, to do its job. This is like the cleaning crew that comes through after a restaurant closes, sweeping up and preparing everything for the next day. If you're constantly eating, this cleaning process never happens, and you end up with bacterial overgrowth, fermentation, gas, and bloating. Then, after this cleaning has occurred, you introduce the bone broth. The healing compounds in the broth, the collagen, the glutamine, the glycine, they go to work repairing your gut lining without interference from complex food digestion. Your body can focus entirely on healing and rebalancing rather than on breaking down proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Thomas followed this protocol religiously for 4 weeks. The first week was challenging because he had to change his eating schedule, which meant shifting his dinner time earlier. But by week 2, he noticed changes. His morning bloating decreased. His bowel movements became more regular. By week 4, he told me he felt better than he had in years. He'd lost the visible belly distension that had plagued him. He had more energy throughout the day, and most importantly, he felt confident leaving his house again. He started attending his grandchildren's activities, going out to eat with his wife, living his life instead of being controlled by his digestive system. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, "This sounds great, Dr. Brooks, but I don't have time to make bone broth. I don't even know how to make bone broth." And I completely understand. In our busy modern lives, spending 24 hours making broth seems impossible. So let me give you some practical guidance. First, bone broth can be made in large batches and frozen. You can spend one afternoon making enough bone broth to last you a month or more. You can use a slow cooker or an instant pot, which significantly reduces the hands-on time. And if you absolutely cannot make your own, There are some high-quality commercial bone broths available, though you need to read labels carefully. Look for products that list bones as the first ingredient, that have at least 10 grams of protein per serving, which indicates good collagen content, and that don't have long lists of additives and preservatives. Second, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you're probably wondering if there's an alternative. While bone broth is uniquely beneficial because of its collagen and specific amino acid profile, you can get some similar benefits from other sources. A combination of seaweed broth, which provides minerals, along with supplemental glutamine and a good plant-based protein powder, consumed on the same schedule, can help support gut healing. Though I'll be honest with you, the results typically aren't quite as dramatic as with bone broth. I want to share one more case with you because this one really illustrates how powerful this simple intervention can be when combined with understanding your individual gut situation. I had a patient, Linda, who was 63 years old and had been diagnosed with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, a condition where bacteria that normally live in your large intestine migrate up into your small intestine and cause excessive fermentation, gas, and bloating. Linda had been through multiple rounds of antibiotics for her SIBO, and while the antibiotics would help temporarily, the condition kept coming back. She was frustrated, exhausted, and feeling defeated. She asked me, "Dr. Brooks, is this just going to be my life now? Am I going to be on antibiotics forever?" I explained to Linda that while antibiotics can clear out the bacterial overgrowth, they don't address why the bacteria are overgrowing in the first place. In most cases of SIBO, there's an underlying motility issue, the migrating motor complex I mentioned earlier isn't working properly, or there's insufficient stomach acid, or the gut lining is damaged and inflamed, creating an environment where harmful bacteria thrive. We put Linda on a comprehensive protocol that included the bone broth before bed, but we also addressed her eating schedule, making sure she had proper gaps between meals to allow that cleaning wave to work. We worked on stress management because chronic stress significantly impacts gut motility, and we made sure she was getting enough sleep because sleep deprivation alone can cause bacterial overgrowth and inflammation. Within 6 weeks, Linda's symptoms had improved more than they had with any previous treatment. Her bloating decreased, her energy increased, and when we retested her, her bacterial levels had normalized without antibiotics. She was able to reintroduce foods she'd been avoiding, and she finally felt like she had control over her health again, rather than being at the mercy of her digestive system. Now let me address something important. Some of you might be taking medications, and you might be wondering how this interacts with your prescriptions. Bone broth is a food, not a medication, so it doesn't have drug interactions in the traditional sense. However, if you're on blood thinners, you should talk to your doctor before significantly increasing your intake, because bone broth does contain vitamin K. And if you have kidney disease, you should discuss it with your nephrologist because of the mineral content. But for most people, bone broth is not only safe, it's incredibly beneficial, and consuming it before bed is one of the most powerful things you can do to support your gut health, reduce bloating, and wake up feeling comfortable and energized. Let me also talk about what else you should and shouldn't be consuming in that evening window, because bone broth works best as part of an overall gut-friendly evening routine. After you have your bone broth, you should avoid all other food and beverages except water or herbal tea. No late-night snacks, no desserts, no alcohol. Each of these interferes with the healing process I've described. Alcohol is particularly problematic because it damages your gut lining, feeds harmful bacteria, and disrupts your sleep quality, which in turn affects your gut's ability to repair itself. If you're struggling with chronic bloating, and you're having even 1 or 2 drinks most evenings, that alone could be perpetuating your problem. Late-night snacking, even on supposedly healthy foods, keeps your digestive system working when it should be resting and repairing. Every time you eat, you're essentially restarting the digestive process, delaying that crucial migrating motor complex, and preventing your gut from doing its housekeeping work. I know changing evening eating habits can be challenging, especially if you've had a routine for years or decades. But I can tell you from treating hundreds of patients that those who commit to this protocol, who really give it a solid 4 to 6 weeks, see results that they simply couldn't achieve with any other approach. Some patients ask me, "Dr. Brooks, how long do I have to do this? Is this forever?" And my answer is that it depends on your individual situation. For some people with mild bloating and gut imbalance, 4 to 6 weeks of the bone broth protocol is enough to reset their system and then they can maintain their results with the broth just a few times a week. For others with more severe gut issues, chronic inflammation, or conditions like SIBO, it might need to be a longer-term intervention, something they do most nights for several months, or even as an ongoing practice. But here's the good news. Unlike medications that you have to take indefinitely and that often come with side effects, bone broth is actually nourishing your body, providing nutrients that benefit not just your gut, but your skin, your joints, your immune system, your overall health. So even if you end up doing this long-term, you're investing in your health in a meaningful way, not just suppressing symptoms. Let me share one final story that really brings everything together. I had a patient named Elizabeth who was 68 years old and had struggled with digestive issues her entire adult life. She'd been bloated for so long that she actually thought that was just how her body was supposed to look and feel. She didn't even realize it was abnormal until her daughter, who's a physician assistant, pointed out that constant bloating wasn't something she just had to accept. Elizabeth came to see me skeptical of any solution. She said, "Doctor, Brooks, I've tried everything over the decades. Why would this be any different?" I told her honestly that I couldn't guarantee results, but that the science was solid, the protocol was safe, and in my clinical experience, it worked for the vast majority of patients who actually followed it consistently. Elizabeth committed to 8 weeks. She made bone broth every Sunday, freezing it in individual portions. She adjusted her dinner schedule. She cut out her evening wine and snacks. And she had her bone broth every single night, 2 hours before bed, like clockwork. By week 3, she noticed her pants fitting differently. By week 5, her husband commented that her face looked less puffy, less inflamed. By week 8, she sent me a photo comparing her stomach from the beginning and the end of the protocol. The difference was dramatic. She'd lost inches around her waist, not from weight loss, but from the resolution of bloating and inflammation. But what struck me most was what she said in her follow-up appointment. She told me, "Dr. Brooks, I didn't realize how much the bloating was affecting my energy, my mood, my entire life until it was gone. I feel like I've been given a second chance to feel good in my body. And that's why I do this work. To help people like Elizabeth discover that they don't have to accept discomfort and dysfunction as normal or inevitable." So let me give you the practical steps to implement this starting tonight. First, obtain or make high-quality bone broth. If you're making it yourself, use bones from grass-fed animals if possible. Add a tablespoon or 2 of apple cider vinegar to help extract the minerals and collagen, and simmer for at least 12 hours, but preferably 18 to 24. You can add vegetables like onions, carrots, and celery for flavor, along with herbs and spices. Strain it well and store it in the refrigerator for up to 5 days, or in the freezer for up to 6 months. Second, establish your evening eating schedule. Your last substantial meal should be 5 hours before bed. Then a 3-hour window with no food, just water or herbal tea if needed. Then your bone broth, warmed up, seasoned to your taste, consumed slowly and mindfully 2 hours before you plan to go to sleep. Then nothing else except water until morning. Third, make this a consistent practice. Your gut needs time to heal and rebalance. Commit to at least 4 weeks before you judge whether it's working. Track your symptoms, take photos if you want to document changes, and pay attention not just to your belly but to your energy, your mood, your sleep quality, because they're all connected. Fourth, support this protocol with other gut-healthy practices. Stay hydrated throughout the day. Manage your stress with practices like deep breathing, meditation, or gentle exercise. Get 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep each night. Consider adding fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, or yogurt to your diet earlier in the day to support your beneficial gut bacteria. And work with a healthcare provider to address any underlying conditions or medication issues that might be contributing to your symptoms. I also want to address a question I get frequently. What about probiotics? Should I be taking a probiotic supplement along with the bone broth? My answer is that probiotics can be helpful for some people, but they're not necessary for everyone, and they're definitely not a substitute for healing your gut lining and establishing healthy eating patterns. If your gut lining is damaged, if you have significant inflammation, probiotics often can't colonize effectively because the environment isn't hospitable. It's like trying to plant a garden in barren, rocky soil. You need to prepare the soil first, and that's what the bone broth protocol does. It prepares your gut environment so that beneficial bacteria can thrive. Once you've done 4 to 6 weeks of the bone broth protocol and your symptoms have improved, Then you might consider adding a high-quality probiotic if you want additional support. But for many people, once their gut is healed and balanced, they can maintain their results just with good nutrition, proper eating timing, and occasional bone broth. Now, I want to be very clear about something important. What I've shared with you today is educational information based on my clinical experience and understanding of gut physiology. This is not personalized medical advice, and it's not intended to replace the care you're receiving from your own healthcare providers. If you have severe or persistent digestive symptoms, if you've noticed blood in your stool, if you have unexplained weight loss, or if you have risk factors for serious gastrointestinal conditions, you need to see a gastroenterologist for proper evaluation and testing. Chronic bloating can sometimes be a symptom of more serious conditions that need specific medical treatment. What I'm sharing is a tool for people who've already been evaluated, who don't have concerning alarm symptoms, and who are looking for natural ways to support their gut health and reduce uncomfortable but not dangerous bloating. Also, if you have a history of eating disorders or disordered eating, please work with a mental health professional and a registered dietitian before implementing any changes to your eating schedule. The timing recommendations I've given should support health, not create anxiety or obsessive behaviors around food and eating. With those important disclaimers out of the way, let me reiterate why this protocol works so well when so many other interventions fail. We're not just treating symptoms. We're not just trying to reduce gas or take an antacid or suppress inflammation with medication. We're actually supporting your body's natural healing and repair processes. We're providing the building blocks your gut needs to repair its lining. We're giving your digestive system the time and space it needs to do its housekeeping work. And we're working with your body's natural rhythms, rather than against them. Modern life has disconnected us from so many natural rhythms. We eat at all hours. We don't get enough sleep. We're chronically stressed. We take medications that disrupt our gut bacteria. We consume processed foods that our bodies aren't designed to handle. And then we wonder why our digestive systems aren't working properly. What I'm offering you is a way to reconnect with some of those natural rhythms, to support your body in doing what it's designed to do, which is maintain health and balance. And the beautiful thing is that when you heal your gut, the benefits extend far beyond just reducing bloating. Your gut health affects your immune system, your brain function, your mood, your energy levels, your skin health, your risk for chronic diseases. When you invest in your gut health, you're investing in your overall well-being in profound ways. I've seen patients not only resolve their bloating, but also experience improvements in their arthritis pain, their skin conditions like eczema and acne, their seasonal allergies, their brain fog, their anxiety and depression, their autoimmune symptoms. This is because so much of our health begins in the gut. When your gut is inflamed and dysfunctional, it creates a cascade of problems throughout your entire body. When your gut is healed and balanced, it supports health in every system. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this message. You don't have to accept chronic bloating as your normal. You don't have to wake up every morning feeling uncomfortable in your own body. You don't have to avoid social situations or wear oversized clothing to hide your distended stomach. There are real, science-based, natural approaches that can help you heal and feel the way you deserve to feel. Comfortable, energized, and confident. The bone broth protocol I've shared today is one of the most powerful tools I've found in my nearly 2 decades of practice for helping people resolve chronic bloating and improve their gut health. It's safe, it's affordable, it's based on sound scientific principles, and most importantly, it works for the vast majority of people who commit to it consistently. Start tonight if you can. Even if you don't have homemade bone broth ready, you can get started by adjusting your eating schedule, having your last meal earlier, creating that fasting window before bed. Then, as soon as you can, add in the bone broth component. Give it 4 weeks minimum before you decide whether it's working. Track your progress. Notice the changes, not just in your belly, but in how you feel overall. And remember, healing takes time. Your gut didn't become inflamed and imbalanced overnight, and it won't heal overnight either. But every night that you support your body with this protocol, you're moving in the direction of better health, less inflammation, and a more comfortable, functional digestive system. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with anyone you know who's struggling with bloating or digestive issues. Leave a comment below telling me about your experience with gut health or any questions you have. I read every single comment, and your feedback helps me create content that truly serves your needs. And if you haven't already, Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss future videos where I'll be sharing more science-based health information to help you feel your best. Most importantly, I encourage you to have a conversation with your own healthcare provider about your digestive symptoms and about whether the bone broth protocol might be appropriate for you. Bring this information to your doctor, discuss your individual situation, and work together to create a plan that addresses your specific needs and health circumstances. Thank you for watching, thank you for investing in your health, and thank you for being part of this community of people who are committed to feeling better naturally and sustainably. Here's to your gut health, your overall well-being, and waking up every morning feeling comfortable, energized, and ready to embrace the day.